All right, well, thank you all for joining. My name is Brandy Locker, and we are the North Texas Tableau user group. So thank you for joining the April event. So there are 4 leaders of this tug. We've got Joey Ramos, Tim Cady. They've been running the show here for about the last 2 or 3 years, and then Stephen and I joined last year. We are based out of Plano, Texas, meeting virtually for now. We generally discuss Tableau content, but we also just cover general data topics as well. And just a shameless plug, feel free to look us up on LinkedIn. We are under the Real North Texas Tableau user group, and on Twitter at ntx_tug. We can go ahead and throw those links in the chat as well for you, but I would love to have you join our group and kind of stay in tuned about upcoming events. And that's also where we post links to the recordings of the session. So after the session, it will be recorded in a couple days and we'll get it up there. And that way you can go back and watch them. And we've got a little bit extra time today. So I wanted to show quickly, if you ever miss a session and you want to go back and look at any of our old videos, you can just go to the Tableau software YouTube channel, click videos, and then there's a search over here, and you can just search for North Texas, and that's where all of our previous content is, all the previous virtual content. So if you ever miss a session, definitely want to check that out and go back and watch it. All right, so next, we're just going to go over, here's the agenda. We've got a handful of announcements for everyone, and then we're just going to get right to it. Stephen's going to introduce some of the new features that are in 2021.1, and then we're going to talk about preparing data for Tableau, so some basic data prep principles, and then also specifically using Alteryx and Tableau prep. Before we get into all the good stuff though, one really exciting announcement for the next month's tug meeting is going to be a super tug. And so let's see, it's Atlanta, got a session with Francois Agenstat. He's the Chief Product Officer at Tableau Software, and they were kind enough to open it up to other tug groups as well. So we're joining forces with, I think it's quite a bit, Indy, Des Moines, Nashville, a handful of them. So it'll be a really great event. People are going to submit questions for Francois to answer, and we hope that you can join us. It's going to be May 20th. Looks like it should be 12 p.m. Central. And so, yeah, we're really excited about that. Definitely want to RSVP. We'll put this link in the chat as well. And then on this page, you'll see a please submit your questions here link. If you want to click that, you can submit a question to Francois, and Atlanta, they're the ones primarily hosting, and they're going to go through the questions and pick out the good ones, kind of consolidate everything, but then we'll get a really good chat with Francois, and it should be a really great event. Do you guys have anything y'all want to add before we move on? Stephen, Tim, Joey?
No, I think you're doing a great job covering everything. So
I would just throw in that this is a rare opportunity to kind of pick Francois's brain. Any of the new features that come out in Tableau ultimately go through Francois's team in some shape or form. So I'd encourage you to submit a question if you have a question about something that's in development or a feature you'd like in Tableau. Definitely take advantage of this. It's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And so quick reminder of just kind of our plan for 2021. We've been focusing on a few different principles just to kind of walk you through the A to Z journey whenever you're developing any kind of data viz. So we talked about data literacy in February and March, had some really great guest speakers. And then today we're focusing on data engineering. And by that we mean just kind of like the data preparation, the cleanup and the data modeling, if you will. And then next month we'll meet with the Super Tug for Francois, and then we'll move into some more of the functional components, and it should be a really good year. We'll have some great guest speakers as well, but just stay tuned to see what's next.
Brandy, I'd like to add on to that if I can.
Sure.
So first of all, thank you guys for all being here. We were just told that the invite went out to Dallas and Fort Worth. So if this is your first time being part of the group, welcome. We're happy to have you. The North Texas Tug. So what is it? Can you expect from us in 2021? Well, the way that we're kind of trying to frame this year is we're trying to think about the different levels that everyone may be at. I know there's probably some experts. There's definitely people on this call who would, are way better at Tableau than me. And there's probably people who are just starting to get started in their Tableau journey. So our focus for this year is to kind of take you through that data stage, through the different stages of data. So what actually is data? We started with Ben Jones in that data literacy phase. Now we're moving into data engineering, and we'll move into the functional piece. Then we'll start to get pretty with the form and design and talk about how best to communicate the designs to the people that you're working with. And we'll actually finish off this year, hopefully, with giving out information about how to get better with your delivery and the soft skills, because there's one aspect of building a dashboard or a visualization, which is the actual technical skill that goes into it. The other part is actually, how do you get people to connect with that information? How do you present it in a way that people can understand? And how do you present it in a way that really gets what you were trying to get from the data and the insights that you gain through the data? And how do you get that across to people? So we hope through 2021, as you join us, hopefully every month and on this journey, that you'll find areas where maybe you're weaker or maybe you're stronger, and you can join in us as we go through these different areas and hopefully touch those places for you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stephen. All right, so up next, I'm actually going to pass it back to Stephen, and he's going to walk us through some of those new features that we were just mentioning.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandy. I'm just going to share my screen here real quick. So we'll start with this. Brandy, can you give me a thumbs up if it's visible and you can see it well? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So my name is Stephen Shoemaker. If you haven't seen me before, I work as a data scientist at WeWork in our people analytics division. Been with the Tableau Tug almost, it's 8 months, maybe a year. I forget, time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But yeah, I wanted to take some time to discuss some of the new features in 2021.1. And I kind of want to start with the elephant in the room, which is Einstein analytics. So we would have liked to demonstrate the capability of Einstein Analytics and Tableau for you all today, but due to some prohibitive licenses needed to use the product, we are not able to do so. That said, Tableau's Einstein product brings in predictive capabilities into the existing ecosystem of dashboards. It can also help companies explore patterns and trends in a way that was not really possible before. So I'm not going to belabor the point there, but we'll throw a link in the chat for the Einstein demo. I recommend you all take a look at that so you can see what Tableau is cooking up in their kitchen as we move forward. But with that said, we'll move on to one of the other cool functions. And there's another function here that I'm not going to cover because we're not really going into the Tableau server, but unified notification experience for Tableau server and Tableau online. It's pretty nice. I recommend you guys check that out. But what we really want to spend time, or I want to spend time on, is some of the quick LODs features. So let me share my Tableau. All right, so level of detail expressions. If you're not familiar with what LODs are, or level of detail expressions are, also known as LOD expressions, they allow you to compute values at a data source level as well as a visualization level. LOD expressions are really there to give you more control over the granularity that you want to compute. So you can use include to compute at a more granular level. You can use exclude to kind of step up and compute at a less granular level. Or if you really want it to be entirely independent of the data, you can actually just use a fixed calculation to create a calculation that's on an entirely independent level. But that's a little bit confusing to talk about. So maybe we'll just do a quick example here, and I can also demonstrate what the quick LOD feature is. So let's start with an example. So what we're looking at here is the Superstore data, and we're focusing on region and state. We can actually do a quick LOD using the fixed keyword in 2020.1 very quickly. So all we need to do is command or control click on sales. So we'll find the sales measure here, and we can just drag that up and we can actually just drag that to region. So now what's happened is a sales parentheses region calculation has been created. So let's go ahead and open this up. And notice how Tableau automatically created a fixed calculation for us. We didn't have to open up a calculated field. We didn't have to type anything in. We didn't have to think about the naming convention. It's all done for us here. And it is fixed by default as well. So now what we're looking at is sales fixed by the region. If we drag that to here, we can kind of see it's independent. It's completely for the region, even though we're now computing at the state level as well. So you can see that there. If we go back to this calculation, we change it to include. Now we're back at that calculation, that level there. So when you're using include, Tableau adds in the dimension and the expressions. So in this case, it's region along with the next dimension, which is sales there. But let's use include to compute total sales by customers. So I'm just going to click out of that there. And then what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and move regions to column. And we'll go ahead and get rid of this state. And we'll go ahead and get rid of this as well. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to control click. We're going to grab sales and we're going to move it to customer. So we'll use customer ID because that'll be a unique field. Now we have sales by customer ID. When we open up this calculation, we can change this to include.
Hey, yeah. Steven, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think you're only sharing the Tableau desktop application and we can't see the calculation box when it pops up.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I have to share my entire desktop. Okay.
Great work, though.
I know, right? Yeah. Let me exit all my Spotify and stuff like that. Let's see here. So, new share. Oh, wait, can you see it now?
No, we still can't see it.
Okay. Technical difficulties here. Just 1 second. Thanks everyone for your patience. We'll just do desktop. Okay. Now what can you see?
We can see, I think, do you have two monitors?
I have a 34-inch monitor. So.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, we see it now, man. You're good.
Okay, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So anyway, we have this calculation up, so we can go ahead and add in include. Now we have this calculation. So we can go ahead and throw sales on here. 1 second. Now that I'm sharing my entire desktop, I have to make sure that things are moving around correctly. Okay, so now we have the actual include function, which is nice. It's very easy to create a level of detail function. If you go ahead and you view data, now you can just go ahead and see all that information there. Makes it very easy to pull that piece here. But let's go ahead and make this a little bit more interesting to look at. So we're going to use an example using exclude. So we're going to pull this over here, and actually let's do this. So let's make another sales by region. And then you can see how if you duplicate it, it actually it automatically adds the 1 or the 2 after that. And we're going to go ahead and make this an exclude. And we'll just say exclude here. And we'll just apply that there. And then, oh, by the way, if you guys ever have tons of these things and you're trying to figure out where something went, I always recommend using this. It makes it a lot simpler. I think it was Joey who showed me, well, he brought that up as a good tactic to use. So now we have the sales here. We can then grab our sales by region field that we had before. We can bring that here. We can also add in, let's say we go to order date and make this month. and let's make this discrete. And let's go ahead and go like this. We'll change this to a bar. Okay, so we have a bunch of different months, done a bunch of different things here. I'm not going to belabor the point and go in through each one of these, but what's interesting about using the exclude function or the exclude LOD is that you can actually just color things. So now by using the exclude we created using the quick LOD, we can actually irrespective of the region, color this so you can see at a glance very quickly which are the highest ones, and it's not based off the individual columns there. So Tableau 2020.1, nothing crazy in this update, but one of the biggest time savers, or especially if you're not familiar with LOD functions, is the actual writing of it. And so with this quick LOD function, we're able to quickly go into our workbooks, drag things, and think more intuitively with the way that we create these LOD functions and use them as we need in the Tableau workbook. And yeah, that about covers it there. So I'll pass it back to Brandy.
All right, thanks, Stephen. That was great. And I have not been able to get the new software yet, but I'm very excited to give that a go. So up next, we've got Joey, and he's going to walk you through some data preparation and some data engineering principles.
All right. Hey, guys. Hey, so great job there, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen? Anyone in the chat want to submit a question? I definitely am a big fan of the quick LOD because it helps you get started. So big fan of that. And again, with the Einstein analytics, yeah, some challenges there trying to demo that because there are some license restrictions. You know, hopefully maybe in the next couple of months we can become part of the developer program and find a way to discuss Einstein analytics with you guys. Okay, let me go ahead and bring up my notes here. Okay, so as Stephen, told you guys earlier, Stephen sort of came to us earlier in the year and said, hey, you know, let's sort of build a roadmap for this year and walk the user through the different principles of data analytics, right? So we started with data literacy, had some really good presentations earlier in the year for that. This month, we are focusing on data engineering. And so today we're going to discuss how to prepare data for Tableau. There are a lot of tools out there. This presentation is going to focus on the tools that I use most frequently, which is going to be Alteryx and Tableau Prep. If you want to proceed, and thank you, Tim, for driving. Okay, so here I have a pretty decent word cloud, and you know, when I was doing research and I was thinking about my own personal experience, I was, thinking about what keywords do people, throw around when they're discussing data engineering. And these are some of the key words, right? Someone will say, build me a pipeline. Someone said that to me earlier this year. And I was like, build you a pipeline? What do you exactly mean about, with that? I want you to transform the data, build me a data set, wrangle data, automate a process, blend. These are all key words, and basically they all mean the same thing, right? They all mean, I want you to go grab data from, I have data on-prem, I have data in the cloud. I want you to go access this data. I want you to gather it for me, into one centralized data set. Once you gather it, I want you then to organize it for me. I want you to do a lot of data transformation, in some cases, enrich the data. And then I want you to create one data set. I want you to publish it, whether it be to a Tableau server, whether it be to somewhere in the cloud or somewhere in an on-prem database. And then once it's there, you got to make it available and easy to access for our consumers, whether it be a data scientist, whether it be an analyst. So basically that's what data engineering is, right? And so with most companies having completed a digital transformation, we have so much data out there in all these organizations. I think I saw a stat once that said, 80% of a company's data isn't even utilized, right? So, that's where data engineering comes in, so we're producing more data, gathering more data. It's more complicated data. It's at a higher frequency in a lot of cases now. It's streaming in real time. So organizations need skilled individuals to bring the data together, organize the data, and then make the data available to others. And again, that's where data engineering comes in. So in my opinion, right, wrangling the data, transforming it, organizing it, and then making it available for consumption is one of the, or maybe the most important aspect of what we do. It's not easy. It takes a lot of practice, but when, putting the puzzle together, it can be fun. And so I really enjoy, doing the whole data engineering. All right, want to proceed? So when you look out there in the market, there are over 30, 50 different tools an individual can use, right? Again, there's so much data. You have data on-prem, you have data in the cloud, you have structured data, unstructured data. So trying to determine, based off of your skill set, the right tool to use, is basically what you're most comfortable with, right? So in a lot of cases, you can use good old SQL. I love using SQL. I've been using it for over a decade now. I'm very comfortable with it. So I'll use a lot of SQL for my data transformation. If you're went to school, or maybe you took some additional courses and you're really comfortable with R and Python, you can do the same thing with R Python. Those are open source languages. Unfortunately, not all of us can code though. So, but fortunately there are numerous tools out there in the market, like I said, that you can use. And there's some of them right here. You've got Fivetran, which is a tool that some individuals use, Matillion. Then you have Informatica. You have SAS, you have SSIS, Azure Data Factory for the cloud, you have Alteryx, and then Tableau Prep. But like today, we're going to focus on Alteryx and Tableau Prep. Again, I'm not going to get into, hey, I prefer one tool over the other. It's basically what you're more comfortable with. I've been using Alteryx now for over 4 years, so I feel very comfortable with that. I'm using Tableau Prep now for about 6 months. Starting to learn the best practices, a lot of what not to do. But again, I'm not going to talk about, comparing the two. I'm just going to show you for this use case, how you can go about preparing the data. So enough of talking about data engineering. So let's go ahead and showcase how we can leverage Alteryx and Tableau Prep to prepare your data for Tableau. So hopefully you guys subscribe to Tableau Public Viz of the Day. All right, so every morning around 9 a.m. or maybe 10 a.m., I get an email from Tableau Public that says, hey, here's today's Viz of the Day. And on early March, I got this in my inbox, U.S. colleges and universities, the complete directory, right? So this one, I was drawn to this one for multiple reasons, but the first one being that, I have a stepdaughter who's in high school and she's starting to explore her, her options regarding colleges. And that's why this directory here, this directory was sort of drew me in. This viz is by Olushola Olojo. He's based in Nigeria. And I did Google how to say his name, and hopefully I got that right. We'll give Tim a second. Yeah, click on that source. It'll take you actually to the web.
Yes. Yeah, give me just a second here.
Yeah, if we
not popping up another window. 1 second.
It's all right. You can either close it, or it's actually on the Tableau Public too. This workbook is.
Yeah, the link's not even working. Give me just a moment.
No worries. I can bring it up on my screen real quick. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I had a feeling that if it sat there on your desktop too long, because it did that to me earlier, it would crap out.
I got you. We're good.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this is a really cool viz. You want to scroll down a little bit. I think he's got so basically what he's doing here is he's gathered data, and we'll go look at the actual source. He's gathered data for over 4,000 institutions or so in the United States. And it's basically admissions information, you know, talking about the actual school itself, talking about the ACTs, talking about enrollment trend, SAT, composite scores, the different types of four-year degrees individuals get, as well as the demographics of the enrollments, the attendees, financial aid, and then also talks a little bit about some of the student loans here. If you go ahead and scroll up to the top, again, it's a very cool viz. If you want to change institutions here, we can actually go look at, if you just want to click on that and type in Baylor, and then you can select Baylor University there in the middle. If you scroll down a little bit, and you can see, hey, it's Waco, Texas, graduation rate 77%, private school. Here he's showing you the composite scores of the top 75%. Here he talks about applications, admissions, SAT scores, and then more information. But yeah, so the one thing I would recommend on this, if you notice, if you go a little bit slower here, he's got multiple parameters that control different sections of the dashboard. The only recommendation here is maybe we could have one parameter that controls, you know, the whole workbook. But yeah, very cool viz of the day. I really appreciated what the information he was presenting here and the way he presented it. What I wanted to do was see if I can get my hands on this same data. And so if you actually scroll down to the bottom, he does a really good job, and make sure you guys do this if you publish something. He's got the source, and the source is the National Center for Education Statistics. And what I was able to do is do a little research, and I was actually able to find the same data sources, Excel spreadsheets that he used to build this viz. So I will go ahead and take control now. Thank you, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go take a look. Close that. Let's go take a look at where these files are located. Let me go back. Sorry, guys. All right, so here are the summary tables that he used for his viz of the day. And you can see here, for instance, if we go look, click on the drop down there, you can look at the ACT test scores for the fall of 2019. And you can select here for, you know, listed by institution. And you can see here, it provides you the composite scores, the 75th percentile and the 25th and the 75th percentile for the composite score, breaks it out for the English portion, the math portion, and then the number of students who submitted. And this is, like I said, 2019 data for over 4,000 institutions in the United States. So what one could do if they have time is come in here and download all the files for 2019, 2018, 2017. And so that's what I did. And so I went in actually and downloaded the majority of these Excel spreadsheets. For instance, we have enrollment by the level of student and race and ethnicity, undergraduate enrollment by degree. So a lot of good data sets in here. But basically what I'm more interested in is the institution, the size of the institution, the financials of the institution, the enrollment rates, and then of course the test scores. All right, so that's how I downloaded the data. And then let's go ahead and start looking at the different data sets. So again, I'm working with Excel spreadsheets. If you're working for a corporation, chances are you're working with databases, but here are those same files we just looked at. I've got 10 files here for ACT scores, 2019 through 2010. So what I'm going to showcase here is how with Alteryx or with Tableau Prep, you can do a union in all these files and then do some data cleansing, very minor data cleansing, and then publish it to a hyperfile. So let's go ahead and start with Alteryx. So I have a brand new workflow open here, right? The canvas here. And in Alteryx, you have these in and out tools, right? So I want to go ahead and click on this input data. And you can see that when I do input data, I can click on data sources, and you can look at all the different types of data sources you can connect to, right? Some of the more ones that I'm familiar with are going to be Teradata, anything MicroSQL Server, anything Oracle related. You actually do have Databricks in here now. So if you have data in the Azure Data Lake or in some cloud environment, you can access it with Databricks. They have Amazon Redshift, Postgres. So a lot of things, Snowflake. So you can connect a lot of different connections here. In this exercise, we're just going to connect some files. So I will select a file. Let's make sure I'm in the right one. Yep. ACT scores. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on fall of 2010. One thing to note, all these files are structured the exact same. That's an important aspect of, showcasing what I want to showcase. So all these files are exactly structured the same way. So I will start with fall of 2010. Nothing fancy here. There's only one sheet called table library. And I will click OK. Let's go ahead and open up this file because I do want to show you, open up 2011. So every file is got the same exact same structure. The data starts on row 5, and here are my column headings. All the column headings are labeled the exact same. Again, everything's structured the same way. The unit ID is going to be the college ID, the unique identifier for the institution name, which is important because if I want to start joining things, I'm going to use the college ID. But so here's an idea of what the actual Excel file looks like. So when you bring data into the input tool, Excel spreadsheet here, it's going to provide you with the initial preview. And you can see that in A1, I have a null value and there's no column headings. That's because right now, Alteryx doesn't know that my data starts on row 5, right? This is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So what I'm going to do is come in here and say start data import on line 5. I'm going to refresh it. And then what you'll see is now this is going to be up here as my headers. Okay, cool. Another thing you're going to want to think about is for this exercise, we're bringing in 10 different files. And the file name actually tells me the year for the data, the year of the data. So I'm going to go ahead and you can do output file name as filled. So I'm going to come in here and do file name only. And then what you can see, let me refresh it. What you can see is now, where'd it go? Maybe it's going to do, once I hit go here, run, it'll spit it out here. So let's do that real quick. There you go, fall 2010. And remember right now, we're only bringing in one file, real easy. So funny story, before I knew this, I actually did some research. I would actually bring in all 10 files and do a union in all 10 files. In Alteryx, there's a shortcut. You can just do a wildcard, and what it'll do is bring in every file within that folder as long as they're all structured, right? The same. So I can do that now, and you can see that now it has the star up here, the asterisk, and then XLSX. And then let's go ahead and run that. All right, and then if I take a look at everything here, it brought in, move this, get out of here. It brought in 2018, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13. Notice it didn't bring in 19. I can't figure out why it's not bringing in 19 because it's supposedly structured the same exact way. So what I'm going to do, just sort of cheat here without having to go back and fix the file, I'm going to bring in 2019 individually. And then remember, my data starts on row 5, and then I'm going to make sure I output that file name. And then you have your different tabs up here. These are called tools. I can do a union between the 9 files and then 2019. Not going to mess with anything. Auto config. And then let's move this over. And then let's browse. Let's run it, and then we can take a look at all the files. You can see 2010, 18, and 19. And then this is going to be a browse tool. It's going to preview some of the data for you. I thought it was only supposed to bring in the first 100 records. I must have messed with the setting here. It's bringing in 45,000. But you can see here, it gives you a brief preview of the data. And these are the different files I brought in. I'm going to go ahead and cheat. And I want to do a quick aggregation on my, my file name here. Let's do a group by, and then I'll count how many records per file. So another good thing I really like about Alteryx is one feature is I can right click and I can cache and run the workflow. What that's going to do is it's going to cache everything up to this point. So when I rerun it in the future, all the data is stored as of already to this point. And so I can come in here and I can see, okay, I've got file 2010 through 2019. I have over 4,000 records per file. So I feel pretty good that I brought in the majority or maybe all of the data. All right, so for this exercise, I'm just going to do a few more things. Remember, I want this to be the year that the data was collected. So we're going to do a quick formula real quick to parse out that year. So I can use the formula tool. And then I want to add a new column. I'm going to call it year. And then if we take a look at the actual column, you know, just like you would do in Excel, I'm going to take the right 4 characters and just make sure that my column is a string. So I'm going to change this to string. And then I will just do right, and I will say file name. That's the name of the column. 4, that's a preview 2010, and it's a string value. Feel pretty good about that. So I don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. And now remember, we're just it's cached up to this point, so it'll run in like a second. And then I can go ahead and preview here. And now you can see I have a year here. So this is the year the data was collected. Cool. So one more step before I publish it. I just want to come in here. So the select tool is cool because I can come in here and I can change my data types. The unit ID is just an integer. No reason for it to have decimal places because it's a unique identifier for the college. Generally for Alteryx, I use vstring for everything. So I will do vstring here. Actually, I don't need this file name, so I can uncheck it and it will drop that column, you know, for anything after this select tool will drop that column. And then I'm going to go ahead and change these to integers as well, because when I get in Tableau, they're going to be viewed as integers. So this is an integer. And then this is a percentage. We'll just leave it as double. Cool. Let's run it. All right, there we go. So data looks good, my percent. Let's go ahead. And so again, so here we have a few different options, right? When we output data in Alteryx. If I use this output tool, I can go ahead and say, hey, I want to write it back to a data source. So if you're an organization that has a sandbox, you can, you know, connect to the different database and write it back to your sandbox. In this case, you can just do a regular file. You can do an Alteryx database file. You can do a hyper file, which is what we're going to do, or you can just do like a CSV. Here are the different types of supported files, but I will click here and I will call it, actually I already have one out there. So let's do this. We'll just click on this. Yes, I want to replace it. And then here, we're going to hit the drop down and make sure we overwrite the existing file. Cool. Now let's open up Tableau and connect to it. Gotta find it. Let's make sure our data types look good. String, number, continuous, string. Cool. It's a small file. I'm going to go ahead and extract it. And there we go. So let's go ahead and test it. Let's say that we want institution. Let's say I want to take a look at Baylor here. Maybe we'll add, let's see, let's add University of Texas. We'll do Texas A&M maybe. University of Texas, Austin. We'll just add those three for now. Let's throw this here. Let's throw my unit ID. And then let's put the year across the top. And then we'll look at the 75th percentile composite score. And then there you go. You can see, hey, 2019 for the 75th percentile of those individuals that applied and got accepted, 32% at Baylor had a ACT score, composite ACT score of 32. A&M, did I bring in College Station? Yep, 31, and then 33 for the University of Texas at Austin. So I'm happy with the way this data looks. So that's how you do it in Alteryx. So let's take a look real quick how you can do the same, something very similar in Tableau Prep. So let me start a new flow. And I want to connect to data. So very similar to what you see in Tableau Desktop, it has all the different connections. I think there's over 50 different databases you can connect to. We also have the option of ODBC and JDBC. This is, of course, just going to be a Microsoft Excel file. So we can come here. Let's go back to that ACT scores. And I'm just going to click on fall 2010. So Tableau Prep has some really good features when working with Excel spreadsheets, similar to Alteryx, right? So again, if we go back to the file, and remember that with Alteryx, I had to tell it to start on row 5. And then, I had to tell it to start on row 5 and then also bring in the file name, right? So I had 2 click steps to do that. I was very impressed to see that Tableau Prep makes it a little bit easier. So if I use the data interpreter here, what Tableau is going to do is Tableau Prep's going to do is intelligently, go and find where they think my data starts, right? So they're going to go look for, hey, we think based off of the structured sugar file, this is where your data begins. And you can see just by clicking that one checkbox, it's telling me, hey, your data starts on row 5, right? We have the unit ID and all the different column headings that's in our data set. Remember, this is only showing 2010. So let's go ahead and do a wildcard union. And what that's going to do is I can say, hey, I want you to look for this pattern. In this case, I just want any file that's in the folder. So I'm just going to put the wildcard there. And what it's going to do is go into that folder and actually look at all the different files that, that are in that folder. So give it a second to load. Taking a little bit longer than, there we go. So yeah, so let's bring this up a little bit. Got 2010 through 2019, all 10 files. I'm going to hit apply. And notice what it automatically did. I didn't have to tell it to bring in the file path. It automatically said, hey, here's the file it came from, fall 2010. And then if I look at a bigger sample, it'll actually tell me, hey, you got fall 2011, 2019. So let's do that real quick. Let's do a quick aggregated step here. And what I can do is say, hey, go group by, oops, what did I grab? I can drag the file path to group by. And then I just want to know the number of records. Drag that over there. So the one frustrating thing is it takes time to, it's validating the flow and it's generating the metadata, which sometimes depending on your, there we go. It just takes some time, right? So it's telling me, hey, I've got your 10 files here and then here are the number of records per file. So I feel pretty good about this, that it's bringing in almost everything. And again, this one didn't have any issue with that fall 2019 file, which I'm not sure why AlterX did because it's structured exactly the same. But no matter how many times I did it, 2019 always fell out. So Tableau Prep, a little bit easier when working with Excel spreadsheets. Just click here for the data interpreter, and then it automatically brought in the file path name. So I'm going to delete this, and then let's add a clean step. So what I want to do here is I just want to make sure all my data types are the same, right? Number, those look good. Let's see, this one here is a percentage. It did a decimal, which is great. So we don't have to change anything there. I'm going to go ahead and remove this column. I don't need it. And then what I want to do here is I want to parse out, right? I need the year. I want to know what year the file, the data was collected. So what I'm going to do is just click on these three dots and do a create calculated field. And again, I'm going to call it year. And very similar to what you would do in Excel, you would just do a mid calculation, mid, my column, my data starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the 6th position. And then I want the next 4 characters, and that's it. Calculation is valid. Let's click save. And then actually put it at the front. And then here's my calculation. I've got 2010 through 2019, and it actually tells me the number of records, right? So I guess doing my aggregation was a bit redundant. But basically, that's the same thing I did here. I did the same thing in Tableau Prep, a little bit less click steps when working with Excel. So I was surprised. And again, I can do output, and I can output it to either a published data source. So this is going to try to publish it to a Tableau server as a hyperfile. Here I can actually publish it right back to a database table. In this case, we're just going to do a hyperfile on my desktop, so just leave it as file. Let's go browse, because I'm going to actually replace this file, ACT Scores Prep, accept, yep. A little bit different here. I don't have to say overwrite. It's going to say if the table already exists, it will be deleted. I do have an option to append. One thing about appending data using Tableau Prep, there is an option settings when you do an incremental refresh. Make sure you have some sort of unique identifier that says, I only want you to append data based off this unique identifier. If you don't do that, I didn't do it for a previous project and I ran into a lot of issues. So if you are doing an incremental refresh, that means appending data, make sure you use, and it's got to be a number, some sort of unique identifier that says only add this record. if it's not already in the data set. All right. Let's go back. So everything looks good here. And we are going to run this flow. All right, I do want to replace it. All right. Less than 30 seconds. That was pretty good. So let's go ahead and connect to that hyper file real quick. Make sure the data looks good. This is good. I like everything I see here. I'm going to go ahead and hide this because I don't need it. Let's hide that one, and then we'll just do an extract. It's going to save it. All right, so let's create a new worksheet. Let's do the same thing. Let's do institution name. Deselect everything. We'll type in Baylor. We'll type in University, Texas, and Austin. And then we'll do Texas A&M. I don't know what it looks like in here. Let's do that. Okay. Let's do unit ID, institution name, year, and then we'll do the composite score. And oops, looks like I got the wrong A&M in here. There we go. Okay. So, you know, I'm trying to build a flow that, you know, like I said, you know, takes all the files, combines all the files, and then do some basic data cleansing. I showed you how to do it in Alteryx. I showed you how to do in Tableau Prep. I was actually very impressed with how Tableau Prep works with Excel spreadsheets. So are there any questions with what I just demonstrated?
Hey, Joey, there's a question in the chat. It was, do Alteryx or Tableau Prep run on a server or on your desktop?
So that's a great question. So depending on your organization and how your organization is set up, right? In an ideal world, right? So for instance, a corporation has an Alteryx server and they have Alteryx desktop, right? Similar to what you would do with Tableau server and Tableau desktop. You would create a workflow via your desktop, and then you would publish it to the server, and the server has a scheduler that you can schedule it. So you can say, hey, I want this process, this workflow, this, you know, I want it to run at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. You can schedule it, and then it will run every day at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And there's different parameters you can set, features you could set that says, hey, I want you to send me an email if it fails. I want you to send me an email if it succeeds, or both. So yeah, so Alteryx, you have Alteryx desktop. Your organization may have Alteryx server. Same thing with Tableau, Tableau server, right? If your organization has Tableau desktop, Tableau server, Tableau prep, and then they've actually purchased a thing called Tableau Conductor, that's what the Tableau server uses to schedule flows. It's called Tableau Conductor. So yes, you do have that capability. It just depends if your organization has those tools, but a lot of them do.
And just a quick note, Joey, on the Tableau Conductor. I believe at this point, it's wrapped into a larger data management add-on, which includes like Tableau catalog and things like that. So just FYI for those, you know, that are going back to your orgs looking for that sort of thing.
That's right. It's a good point. Thank you. Are there any more questions regarding what I just demonstrated? If not, I do want to show you an issue I did run into. So let's take a look. Was it this one here? So when I was working with this file, and it's actually coming from the admission and price trends, I did run into an issue that that Tableau prep couldn't help me with. And so I ran into, and I Googled it, and there's no solution for it on Tableau prep. So I'll show you real quick. If I go look at this file, admission by price trends, there's so much data in when I downloaded it. I had to download 6 different files, you know, and then I had to download it state by state, right? So here's Alabama through Florida. If we go take a look at it, this file here has no column headings. This doesn't tell me. It just says, here's the university, here are the components, here are the categories, and then it breaks it out by year, right? There's no true column heading here, right? And then here's the next university. And then it has all the different categories, and then it has, you know, the stats per year, right? So this is price trend, right? With the price for on-campus and district, and it breaks it out, right? That should equal to 23,954. So with working with this file in Alteryx was a little bit easier. In Tableau prep, there were some issues, and I'll show you the one issue I had. So again, just like we did, we have the wildcard here. I said, hey, my data starts on line 3. Let's go ahead and deactivate this, and we can run it. So remember here, this is my college ID, which I really need, because if I want to start joining data sources, I need the college ID. I don't want to join on the name. I want college ID here. So I'm going to split text to columns, and I'm going to split out price trend into 3 different columns. And I'm going to do it by just the dash here, right? This delimiter. And what that's going to do is break it out over to the right. I've got my college ID here. I've got my college name. I don't need any of this. I just want my college ID, right? And so, you know, there's probably different ways to do this. What I was able to do then was convert my college ID into a, if I make it an integer, what it's going to do is it's going to actually null out anything that is not an integer, right? So here's my college ID now, and then here's my next college. What I need to do now is fill down this college ID for all these records. Same thing here, fill it down. Alteryx has a really cool tool called the multi-row formula, and that's what this is. And basically, if you've ever written anything in SQL where you're using preceding or following, you can actually say, I want to partition by my you know, certain categories, you know, certain dimensions, and then I want to say, hey, it's like when you create an aggregation at different dimensions, right? Like a running average or a running sum. I want to aggregate something by dimension A and B, partition it by A and B, and then I want you to give me the following 3 months or the following 3 records and aggregate something, right? This is very similar. So what I'm telling it to do here is I want you to update an existing field, which is my college ID. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go look at the preceding row. And if the preceding row is null, so let me go back here. If the preceding row is null, then if this row is null, give me the preceding college ID is basically what it's saying. And that's all it's doing. And so what's going to happen is it's going to fill everything down. And then when it gets to this point, it's going to stop. And now it's going to start filling the 663 down. And so that's what we have here, right? It's filling this down. And then it stops and it fills it down. And then it stops. So using the multi-role tool, formula tool in Alteryx helped me with this. And then with some additional tools here, I was able to finally come out to my existing data set that said, okay, here's my college ID, here's my category, here's the year. I wanted all my years in one column because that's the best way, for you to work with dates in Tableau. So I have, here's my college ID, on campus, year, and here's the cost, right? So, with a little bit of problem solving, I was able to do that, in a timely manner using Alteryx. Tableau prep, you can't do that. Let's bring it up. It's one of these. So this one here, right? There's no, and I Googled this. There is one solution, but it's not something that I've ever done before. Let's see. Give me 1 second while it loads here. When you Google it, it was saying you could do, you could run a Python script or an R script that would fill it down for you. That's not in my expertise, so that's where I stopped and said, hey, okay, maybe I can't do this using Tableau prep. All right, any questions? All right. That's all I got.
Thanks, Joey. That was great. I think it was a good overview for those who maybe use one tool over the other, or maybe just those who haven't ever used it before. And now they have a good comparison and kind of get a feel of something they may want to learn more about in the future. So it was awesome. We're actually going to wrap up early today. We just had a short meeting, but quick reminder to go ahead and RSVP for that super tug for next month in May. We've got the link in the chat, and we'll post it on social media as well. So be sure you're following the group on Twitter and LinkedIn. And thank you all so much for joining. You'll have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.